Hello and welcome. This is the Conservative Crusader with a special edition of the program today here on the Red Future Radio Network. Joining us now is a candidate for U.S. Senate from the state of Wyoming. His name is REID RASNER. REID, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for hopping on with us. So first and foremost, I didn't give a super long introduction to you. I want you to have a chance to introduce yourself to the people and why you're running for the U.S. Senate.
Absolutely. So I'm a fourth-generation Wyomingite. I was born and raised in Casper, Wyoming. I'm just a normal, regular guy. So during the day, I'm a financial advisor. Nothing special about me. I invest people's money and I help them build wealth. Over the past 10 years, my entire adult life has been, I've lived through war, recession, and terrible economic times. And after the disaster 2020 election that we saw, things changed in this country, and people are upset, and no one's stepping up to change this country, and someone needs to step up. So for about 2 years, everyone kept saying, "Reid, will you run? Reid, will you run?" I didn't have any interest in actually running. And in March, I finally gave it some serious consideration, and I told everyone I'd do it, but it's going to be my way. We're gonna run. We're going to do term limits. It's going to be America first, 100%. And we're going to topple this John Barrasso and get him out of here and start doing something good for this country, because this country is on the wrong path, and we've got to start working towards something greater and better for all Americans, not just the upper echelon, the elite and the globalists, which seems to be being catered to right now. And I think that's the driving passion behind what's fueling my campaign in Wyoming. People feel left behind and they feel spited by our leaders, and they need a champion, and I hope to be that champion.
Before we get into the issues, and I appreciate the reason you're running and you're not just running for yourself, as many politicians do.
Yeah.
Before we get to the issues, you're challenging an incumbent. We saw how President Trump was able to completely trample what was her name? Liz Cheney's political career, electing Harriet Hageman in that seat by endorsing her. Do you think President Trump could support you in your campaign?
I hope, and I know President Trump, if he gave me the opportunity, would love me and love my campaign. I'm 100% not in this for myself. I didn't want to run, and it took me 2 years of convincing to do it. The people of Wyoming and the people of this country need some serious American first candidates that are going to do what is best for this country finally, and forget the globalist agenda. And people need to be elected that can say no. And during my campaign, I like to say that weak men create these hard times that we're living in, and it's going to take strong men and women to overcome these hard times. And people are going to have to go to Washington and be able to tell the globalists, the BlackRocks, the Finks, the Ukraine, the Zelenskys, the Bidens, the Clintons, they're going to have to look them in the face and say, no more. Pelosi, Schumer, no more. McConnell, no more. We have to, across the board, say no to these people and start looking out for America's best interests. And even today, my posts, I was going through how much we've spent on Ukraine, because Zelensky's coming back to Washington begging us for more money this week. 26 times my opponent, John, has voted in favor of sending money to Ukraine over the last year.
Wow.
With a fraction of that money, according to Urban and Housing Development, we could have completely eradicated homelessness in America, including all veteran homelessness. We could have finished President Trump's wall, just a fraction of that money. And we could have repaired and fixed all highway systems across this country and done major infrastructure with just a fraction of that money, and still had money left over had we spent that money in America helping Americans. And it's a shame what's actually happening in Ukraine. And it's a shame that we're fighting this proxy war, and it's going to lead to us going to an actual hot war. And no one is talking about peace. And that's very concerning for people like me, and it should be concerning for you and young up-and-coming Americans and leaders, that no one is discussing peace and what that looks like, or even a forced peace negotiation with NATO. And it's scary.
It absolutely is scary, sir. And before we get into the deep issues that I want to mention today, from your perspective, you're running for office. What are the top 3 issues the people of Wyoming are telling you that they are facing them? And what do you believe their top 3 issues are for America and Wyoming?
First and foremost, in Wyoming, energy independence. Our energy community has been completely gutted, both by the Biden administration the Department of Interior, and by our current leadership in the Senate. They're not. I apologize. They're not
You're good, sir.
releasing those. They're not releasing the federal land leases. So our oil, our natural gas, our clean coal has come to a standstill in this state. And our economy is dependent on energy. We produce 13 times more energy than we use. And we truly do help fuel America. So getting America first energy policies in place, especially for Wyoming, is a top priority. A second priority, term limits. And I've signed the pledge with U.S. term limits to vote for term limits. And that would look like 3 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate. And it would create a citizen legislator that is so important to getting us back on track in this country. You would eradicate the politicians and these career politicians that we see that are in office for 20, 30, and 40 years. They would be gone. They would be forced to go in with a set of campaign promises, make those promises happen, and then come back home. So they'll be forced to actually represent their people. And lastly, a balanced budget. And I'm working very closely with some economists. And I do have a plan, and I'll be unveiling the plan shortly, to balance the budget, reduce the deficit, reduce overall government, because our government has grown to this huge monster. And we've got to cut a lot of the agencies out, I believe. And I think we can do that in this Balanced Budget Act, and that's what I'm working towards. And I'll unveil that shortly as soon as I have it done, but I am working towards it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the budget here. If you were in the Senate right now taking your opponent's place, and you were at the negotiation table, we're on the front lines of the budget battle right now, what would be your number one spending cut today?
The IRS and the ATF.
All right, I completely agree with you there. Immigration is a big thing right now. We have the crisis up in New York as well as at the southern border, obviously brought to you by New York, and I'm actually happy New York is experiencing it. They're a sanctuary state, sanctuary city, all that fun stuff. But what do you think our solution is for immigration? Should we close the border completely for legal and illegal immigration temporarily? What should we do?
Yeah, a temporary halt at the border, secure our border, stop the bleeding, get our arms around the situation, and then put a system in place that allows for legal immigration. Because I'm fine with people coming to America that want to have that American dream. That's why our country was built and established. That's how we all came to be. And leaving that door open to people who want to come here legally is so important, so that they can have that American dream. But to just have them pouring over our border, I mean, we don't have a country anymore, like President Trump says. We don't have a country unless we have a border. We've got to stop the crisis at the border. So just today, the Senate GOP came out, and they want to have a digital strategy along with a physical strategy. And I'm saying we need to seal the border off with a physical wall. They're scared to say wall for some reason. I'm saying we need to have an actual wall, a very tall wall in place at the southern border that stops the criminals from coming over, the cartels, and ends the human trafficking. If they do come over, there's severe consequences. We need to have deportation in place. You don't get to come over and stay, and it's not a catch and release system. We end that. There's actual things that the Senate and the House can do today to override what the Biden administration is doing. They're just failing to do that. They're bought and paid for, I keep saying, and we need to elect new leadership in this country across the board.
Well, you're absolutely right there. REID RASNER's with us. REID, REID, RASNER.com. You've already mentioned Ukraine a little bit. What should we do if China invades Taiwan? What's the American response? Should we get involved at all? What do you think?
Yeah, we have to get involved there. We've already got treaties with Taiwan, so we would get involved there. I don't know that China would invade Taiwan, and I believe they've already said that if they do, we're going to take a hardline stance. We have to be strong, and we have to. I don't think China would do anything in Taiwan if our leadership actually had a show of strength. The unfortunate thing across the board in the White House, in the Senate, and in the House is our leaders are not strong. They're weak, ineffective people who are 80 and 90 years old in a lot of cases, who show no outward strength, and they cater to these countries and bend a knee to them. We have to have strength, not only at our borders, but we have to have strength globally, so that if anything happens, they know what our response is going to be. They may not know exactly what it's going to be, but they know we're going to respond. And I think that is a key thing that we need to make sure happens. So we need to elect a president who will respond, like President Trump will respond if anything happens in Taiwan. He would bring peace to Ukraine like he did in the Middle East. And our Senate needs to then back, and our House needs to back the president in making sure that those things happen and have a plan in place. So there's three branches of government, and we still have a checks and balance system, and we need to utilize that to our best ability.
I really don't think we would have any problems abroad if China wouldn't invade Taiwan if Trump was in office, but I get your perspective there, even if it does happen then. Runaway inflation is crazy right now. What is the federal response to inflation? I know you said you're a financial advisor. You know the money. What's your plan there?
The Federal Reserve is very secretive with what they're doing with their monetary policy. And for years, they kept saying it was transitory inflation. They printed $30 trillion and told us it was transitory. And people actually bought this. The media told us it was true. People actually bought a transitory inflation story. Even John, my opponent, says it's transitory. They're saying it's at 6-8%. It was much higher, and it still is much higher. And we could be heading towards possible credit crisis when we look at regional banks and the deposits there and what they're doing. We need to audit the Fed, not only the Fed, but the central bank. And we need to understand what is actually happening in these systems so that we can fix these systems. And a complete audit would do that. Until we have the knowledge of what's going on and where the monetary policy is coming from and why it's okay to keep printing money, we don't know what the response should be. So a complete audit would tell us what that response should be. But we cannot continue have a continuing resolution to just print more money. We just topped $33 trillion today in debt. We have got to rein this in, cut spending, and reduce the deficit to strengthen the dollar. The dollar is being completely decapitated right now. Our dollar is maybe worth 40 cents, 50 cents. I don't know. But it's definitely not worth $1. And it's not going to be worth $1 if they keep raising the debt. And this is what I'm saying. It's going to take strong leadership. And a lot of people aren't going to like it when agencies are cut and programs are cut. But that's what we have to do. For 20, 30, 40 years, we've got a blank check. And Congress across the board has spent with no control. And it's time to rein it in. And we're going to face some hard times, whether it gets reined in or not. So we may as well just have some hard times knowing good times are on their way soon. But it's going to take some really strong leaders to guide us through those hard times and ensure the American public, especially in Wyoming, that we're going to come out okay on the other side.
I completely agree with you, sir. I have one more fiscal question and policy question, then I want to kind of transition to the campaign side of things, because your policy doesn't really matter if you can't win the election, and I like to say that quite a bit. What's your trade policy look like? If you're on the negotiating front with China, with these countries abroad, are you a free trade person, an open trade person? What are your thoughts?
Sure, and I agree with Trump on a lot of this. We had tariffs that got cut back. I'm for trade. I'm for imports. I'm for exports. But it has to be fair trade. And everyone says fair trade, but when we're paying China billions of dollars a year and they're not paying us anything, or we're paying for our NATO allies, like, we're paying a lot of money in America and we're not receiving anything in return. So we're going to have actual fair trade, or we're going to balance the scales with some tariffs to make sure our trade is fair, to make sure American industries are repaired and our people are going back to work and we can start manufacturing in America again, and we can be competitive on a global market right here in the States. And that's kind of where I would sit on trade.
So I know Wyoming's a pretty Republican state, but let's say you're talking to a voter, they're a hardcore Democrat, but they're thinking about supporting your campaign. What are you going to work bipartisanly on in the U.S. Senate with the left to get done for Wyoming?
Sure. And I've done this, and I've spoken to several people across Wyoming already in my town hall events. And some of them were Democrats who actually took my yard sign, and I was very surprised, and I'm proud of that because I'm a pretty conservative guy. We can work bipartisanly on term limits. I think the only people in this country, well, they say 80% of Americans want term limits. The only people I think that don't want term limits are the current elected officials in Congress. And term limits is a bipartisan issue. balancing the budget is a bipartisan issue. It has to be bipartisan. It just comes down to what programs do we cut and where do the spending cuts come from. Everyone knows we can't just keep spending into oblivion. Everyone knows this. And those are two of the biggest issues I think that we can bring across the aisle and reach across the aisle and come up with compromises. It's both sides lose. There's no winner on either issue, really, because term limits establish a citizen legislator, and on the budget, both sides are going to lose something, conservatives and Democrats alike, in order to do what's best for the American people. But that's how this government should operate anyway, is we need to keep the American people in mind and at heart when we're legislating and make sure we're doing what's best for America. So both sides might lose, but in the end, the American people win.
So according to my quick math here, and I appreciate that answer, about 15% of Wyoming is going to be the Gen Z age that's going to actually be voting. I'm not sure what that looks like in the voting population. That's just overall. I believe the Republican Party has been very lackluster in recruiting young people, besides knocking doors and being interns, to actually get involved in the public policy process, actually get involved in voting. What is your campaign doing to reach out to young people to get involved? I mean, obviously you're doing this program, but other than this, how are you planning to reach out to young people?
I'm forming, and I'm in the works of forming. So I'm in the early stages. I'm about 5 weeks into my campaign, but we're forming a Gen Z coalition right here in Wyoming. And I already have several young people reaching out to me, wanting to support, asking how they can help the campaign. What can they do? Some of them are in college and they'll be back. So that's exciting. We're going to form a coalition for Gen Z and one for millennial voters to get people excited and involved. And I keep telling, because there's a wide range of politics in Wyoming, even though we're a solid red state, we're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay, because we need to get back to debate in this country where both sides can debate cordially on both sides, and we can agree to disagree on some things, but I guarantee we'll agree on something and we can find common ground somewhere. So that's kind of the message that I've been talking, especially at my town halls, because I've had quite the turnout, and it really does settle down some of the opposition at my town halls when we're face to face. And it's okay that we disagree on certain topics and we can debate those cordially without name calling. And then we both leave smiling at the end anyway. So there's been a very good reception across the state with people who come in to the town hall a little bit angry and wanting to meet me and hear me, and then a little bit hostile at first. But as soon as it's okay to disagree, and we're not sitting behind a computer. We're not keyboard warriors. We're humans. I'm literally just a normal guy. Just a few weeks ago, until I announced I was just a normal guy. This is all brand new to me. I'm not a politician, and I'm unlike anything that they've seen in the state so far. But it's really exciting, and I've calmed some hostile situations down at our town halls, and I think I've won over their support, which I'm very proud to say, because we can disagree on things, but we can still find common ground, and we can still work towards a brighter future for Wyoming. And that should go for all of America. We can still find common ground across the country.
Well, that is great to hear, especially with your town halls. Now, would you consider Liz Cheney a friend?
Liz Cheney, I'm sure, is a very nice person. I wouldn't vote for her.
Just wanted to check that.
She's probably a lovely person. I never got to meet her.
I talked to a couple people. I said I'm having
she's probably a lovely person. She will not receive a vote from me ever. She will not.
That's good to hear.
No, politically, we're a bit different, but and that's okay. See, again, that's okay, because she doesn't know me, but I don't know that she can say anything bad about me because she doesn't know me.
Right. I was talking to a couple of friends, like, make sure he's not a Liz Cheney guy. So
I
had to get that across for a couple of my friends out there.
Yeah.
So now to the big question. You're running against an incumbent. You have to have a lot of money. I don't know how the media markets work in Wyoming. I'm sure there's a lot of money that goes into it. I'm sure the senator is running for re-election. What's your game plan on the ground to actually win this primary against a Republican incumbent?
So I have a strong grassroots game. I don't have the $7 million John has. Of the $7 million, when you look into his finances, only about $150,000, so 2.2% came from the actual state of Wyoming. So far, I've raised just about $30,000, and we'll do our reporting here at the end of the month. So I don't have the money he has. Will I get the money he has? Boy, I hope so. I've been getting the support. So I think I'll be competitive. Either way, I'm forming a really strong grassroots campaign across the state. So we're organizing in each county. I'll be visiting each county several times over the next year, and I've already started. My days and weeks are getting a little bit mixed here, but that's okay. We're doing it for the people, and I'm going to have a very strong ground game, and my message is clear and concise, and it's strong, and there's really no politics involved. I don't have anything memorized, and I think that's what's really, really helping me is I'm not a politician, and I refuse to memorize it. Everyone keeps telling me, read, memorize something, get an elevator speech, and I'm going to shoot from the hip and talk from the heart, and I'm going to call it like it is, and that's kind of been really successful for me at these town hall meetings, especially, and they've happened all over. I mean, we visited probably maybe 8 or 10 counties already here in the past few weeks, so we're doing very well, and we've had a really great reception. And I know John's getting a little concerned because things are happening in the background, and if he wasn't concerned, they wouldn't be happening right now. So I welcome a debate with John anytime to talk policy, and I welcome the competition. And we're going to do something really special for Wyoming. And I tell everyone we're gonna overturn the third highest ranking member in the Senate with a really good guy and my cell phone, because I do a lot of videos and cell phone and social media stuff, and I don't know that. John's got it in him, so he's kind of a photo op and handshake kind of guy.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, especially the part about you not memorizing a speech. Now, when you become successful, you become really well known in the state. I'm sure you're going to. You're going to have those people that follow you around to every single event. You go to every different campaign event. They're going to be so happy not to hear the same speech every time. I got to say, I was that person for a while. I'd be so happy not to hear the same speech every single time. So I appreciate that. That's pretty much my list of questions for you, sir. REID RASNER, REID, RASNER.com. Where can more people find information about your campaign, get involved, donate, maybe help put against that $7 million? How can they find that?
So go to REIDRASNER.com. And you can make any donations there. If you want to find out about my policy and my stance, go to REID W, and then RASNER, that's my middle initial, is W, on Facebook. So REID W RASNER, or just REID RASNER U.S. Senate, and my campaign will pop up on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, TikTok. I'm not very well liked over there, so I get quite a bit of pushback, and Twitter. So I'm on all social media platforms, and I'm going to start my Truth Social very soon. I just have to figure out Truth Social, and it's so overwhelming with all these different platforms. But we're gonna make it happen, and we're gonna give him a run for his money, and he's gonna spend all $7 million one way or another, is what I keep telling our campaign management team. Is we're gonna drain those accounts and make sure he doesn't have a penny left at the end of this. So we're gonna spend the foreign money. We're gonna spend his foreign money here, and we're gonna take care of business and do something really special for America.
Make Zelensky put some money up.
Well, he's probably they're getting ready to do their foreign policy this week, which is just a huge money laundering scheme at this point. I have a feeling. So I don't know if you saw them talking, but Barrasso came out and talked with Mitch McConnell today about it. So he already had his speech.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell's a joke, and I hope, and I didn't get the chance to ask you this, I hope you wouldn't vote for him if you get in the Senate for my majority leader again.
Absolutely not. 100% Mitch has got to go. But I don't think they're fooling anyone. And they're saying that the Ukraine dollars that they're giving Zelensky are being spent in America. That was their speech today, which you should go watch it. Everyone should go watch this because it's complete BS. And there's no truth to what they're saying. But we got them on the fence, and we're gonna keep pressure on them for the next year, and we're gonna see what they got. So let's do something special for America, and very special for Wyoming, I hope.
I think underdog candidates can perform, especially in smaller states like Wyoming, so I think you got it in your. REID RASNER, REID, RASNER.com. REID, thank you for joining me on the program today, and I hope you have a great rest of the time on your campaign.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir. Back after this.
You're listening to the Conservative Crusader.